Hello, we are getting into talking about the deities associated with the season of the Leo.
Yes.
There is quite a few of them, and we are trying to figure out if you guys enjoy all of them and the way that we speak about them, or if we should change it. I don't know. I feel like sometimes when we talk about the stories organically and not from our notes, it gives it more energy. I really do. And we're trying to channel that energy, but when we do episodes in the summer, it's easiest for us to get together in one whole day and record everything.
Okay, so these are Egyptian, we're going to be talking about a couple Egyptian deities and a couple of Celtic deities, and neither one of us really base our spirituality around
Celtic or Egyptian. So we're less drawn to it in general. So we're less passionate about it in general. So we're trying to get behind it, get the passion in there, and get like to the heart of some really good mythology. I think Chaplain?
The cat says hello.
He's been meowing for the last few minutes.
He says,
"Love, we're gonna talk about Skehmet at one point."
I embody the Leo energy.
Yeah, I know you did. Give me attention now. Jeez.
I is cat.
Yeah, he is cat. So,
Can I hold you?
Were we gonna start with Ra?
No, he said don't
or Suilus?
Even try.
Yeah, he's like, look, just pet me. We're gonna start with Suilus, I think. So when we talk about mythology and religion and all of the things, we are uncovering history based on storytelling, especially when it comes to Nordic religion, Celtic religion, Druid practices. They didn't really write things down.
Yeah, and it's really hard to get good
information,
solid information that's like consistent,
evidence-based,
exactly. And there's not a lot of like in-depth stories about these people. It's just information about them.
So Suilus has some location that was a place of worship for her, which was a bath. And so that is something that we have that's solid. But everything else that we have is literally journals written in like the olden days. Because we don't have much storytelling. People didn't write down the stories they were telling each other, really. I mean, some of it's there, but it's literally somebody's journal that was put into a museum somewhere and cited as, history. Which, don't know if this happened or not. Use your discernment. But we're just saying, like, it was difficult. Because a lot of these religions are getting restarted from the ground up. And that starts with archaeologists. And all of that.
Yeah, and anthropologists and archaeologists. And all of that good stuff. Like, we gotta put a little trust in them guys. Because they really do dig up the artifacts and stuff that gives us the information that we do have,
And I feel like we're also very picky because we know that the internet isn't always correct, so we try to find sites like Britannica and stuff like that are cited, like, that has credibility.
Yeah, like that's like their niche, what they're known for knowing about,
Yes. Okay, so I am just scrolling through this Britannica site real quick, and we are currently lighting candles because we are talking about our entities, or entities in general. And you do not come to somebody disrespectfully.
Yeah, so we need to honor them while we talk about them. That's part of our process.
How we practice.
Yeah.
Right? Like, everybody doesn't practice the same, but yeah. So I'm trying to scroll through these, and the internet is slow. Give me a second here. Suilus was known as a sun goddess. She is also adopted into the Roman mythos. She's aligned with Athena, and she has a spa or a bath in which people would literally come and pilgrimage to bathe in the waters, to be able to commune with the dead, as well as enhance psychic abilities. And they will also had uncovered tablets with inscriptions of curse and purifications. So I kind of see her, especially with her being aligned with Athena, as a justice entity. There were stories about her cursing people that stole her brush, I believe. Suilus is connected also with the Tuathadanan, the
Tuathadanan.
Yes, the Fae. The Fae. That's how everybody knows them, but this is like ancient. The Fae were said to live in this place.
Yes.
There, like I said, we're going to link all of our linkies below. There were literally cursed tablets found, inscribed with Roman words. In this pool, people would take pilgrimages all the way to this bathing place that was naturally made, but of course, like carved into the space. And they would drop tablets to petition justice workings as well as cursing. You know, like. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Well, she's not staying put. Don't fall again.
Do you need to melt the bottom?
I don't think it's going to fall again.
I think it's just because you moved it, but at the same time, it's not on its feet. It's just sitting there. It didn't go out.
It did not go out. I'm going to leave it alone. Unless you feel like it's going to fall again. I just don't want to leave it here because it's metal and this is plastic.
No, yeah. That's
like that bitch is gonna...
It's going to get hot. No, you want to put it back where it goes. That's fine.
Fire safety.
Yes.
Fire safety. So yeah, Suilus, because she's Celtic, I don't remember if she is in the Encyclopedia of Spirits. But also, like, it was hard to find books about specifically Suilus because with Celtic mythos, like I said, it was all word of mouth. It was journal entries. I think I specifically sent you the article on that website about her cursing somebody, but I keep clicking one of these and it's taking me to Bridge. I don't know why. It's driving me crazy. So I'm trying to read what I found. A lot of what I talked about is her bath and the Roman curse tablet.
Which her bath is called Aqua Suilus, or the waters of Suilus, which I thought was interesting.
Yes, and that she's connected with Athena.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
People would literally like travel very far just to bathe in this bath, which is, you know, a big deal. And the fact that she stopped getting recognition, which is, it's sad, like that people would do so much in her name and it just like stopped.
Yeah, I never heard of Suilus before we started researching. So that's, you know, I consider Suilus more obscure, honestly. I mean, unless you are really entrenched in the Celtic religion, you know.
It said that she is connected with birth and pregnancy, as well as healing, and her waters are healing, but you can also use her waters, like I said, for cursing or justice workings. I can't find the thing about the comb. I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, she's just a justice deity, healing deity, associated with the sun, water, associated with pigs. You know, people would offer her coins, and there was a pair, one pair of loaded dice. The Romans
actually associated her with Minerva, which is associated with Athena.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Greek and Roman differences. Yeah. Just wanted to clarify that as well.
But she's been given coins, and there was a pair of loaded dice left as an offering, which left us both very confused. And we were deep diving because she's not associated with...
Isn't that weird?
Loaded dice gambling. So we were really trying to figure that out, but it was only one pair that was ever found in her sacred bathing place.
Right.
So, but I mean, like, also, I don't think there was many curse tablets. They have one curse tablet in a museum somewhere.
Think wishing well, right? People throw coins more than anything, but there's other things, other offerings as well.
Yeah.
So, cursing tablets make sense, though, as a justice deity who punishes those who do wrong.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. That people would give their cursed tablets to her.
It said the one that they have on display says, "I'm going to fix you," or "to fix" is the verb that was used. So really, to fix, to even out. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a pretty definitive word. We talk ourselves about how spell work and wording matters a lot, because you can word until, I don't know, you get bored of wording, but ultimately, unless you word a specific way, you're giving the universe an entirety of open-ended consequences.
You know what's funny? Speaking of that, I always thought it was so strange how her planet representation is the sun, hence the Leo associations, right? But her element is water.
I think it also has to do with what we're not seeing and what we're not hearing with her specifically.
And I know, and it's so hard
because the stories that we didn't get.
Celtic stories are so hard for that reason. Oh, it's so hard, and there really wasn't much information that we could find, even with CinnamonGrove's super deep diving,
scouring the internet.
It's crazy.
I'm sure that we're missing something, but unfortunately, there's not much.
There was one thing you didn't mention, is that her pigs were credited for discovering her.
Oh, her bath.
Her, bath.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was trying to look through.
They were found rolling around in the warm mud, but I'm not really sure what about a pig is youthful and healthy that gives them that idea. But
sometimes we look at the things and we scratch our head because we're super confused about what we're reading.
I also said that her bath can be used as a portal for the people to talk to.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, you did say that. Yeah, I forgot. I feel like that's such an important aspect.
I think that's the main aspect of her worship.
Which is really strange, because people really don't... It's not... There's no emphasis on that, on any information that we find. But when you connect the dots, that's basically what... the vibe you get,
Well, because water, it cleanses, but it can also be
deadly.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a lot that we're missing, but also looking online and scouring the internet doesn't show up a lot of information. So,
and also Suilus may protect women who are going through pregnancy, childbirth, lactation, things like that.
Yeah, I mentioned that too.
Yeah. Okay, so you did.
Yeah.
See?
We went over all of her things. There's not much to actually say on her.
There's not.
Even the book, like the Encyclopedia of Spirits, doesn't have a lot, because there's not a lot to be said.
It's too bad, because she sounds great.
So that's it for Suilus, because like I said, we couldn't find a lot of information. We'll link what we have. But she seems like a very intense entity.
And next on the roster
is another Celtic entity.
Celtic goddess.
Yes.
Her name is Aine. It looks like it's spelled Aine. I always thought that was funny. Irish spellings for things, because my daughter's name is Ava, which is an Irish name origin, right? But the way I spell her name is, you know, like the American English way, AVA. And the way that it, like the Celtics do, that name is like AOIFE. That's how they would pronounce that's what they would pronounce as Ava. But it looks like Oifa or something, you know?
Yeah, a different alphabet.
Yeah.
You know.
So this looks like it says Aine, but it's pronounced Anya. And so we were having a little laugh about that when we first figured that out, because we had been calling her Aine for a good little bit before I looked up the pronunciation.
Yeah, we did.
So Anya means bright delight. She's a goddess of love, desire, fertility, protection. You know, so she's like that. She's giving Aphrodite vibes, but like Celtic. You know, it's giving the same. It's giving the same archetype. You know. She was called the Magna Mater. Can we get etymology on that, CinnamonGrove? Magna.
I don't think that's even how you pronounce
Mater?
it, because it's a completely weird. It's weird. Okay.
Magna Mater? Magna Mater? I don't know how you would pronounce that. But you know, she's known to be very beautiful. She took many lovers, including mortal men and spirits. She bared many children with her many lovers. So once again, it's giving Venus energy, but she's represented by the sun. So isn't that interesting how like the love aspect in Greek mythology is represented by Venus, whereas that same energy in Celtic myth is more associated with the sun. I think that's pretty interesting. She was married. She did have a husband, but along with these many lovers, so, you know, there's lots of extramarital affairs happening. But her husband was Gerald, Earl of Desmond. And the story of how they met is like there's a couple of versions. So in one version, she captures him, which is interesting because that's really all you get for that version, is that she captured him and made him marry her, right? Or which is this story is way different, or he may have seen her bathing in a river and stole her cloak and wouldn't give it back until she married him. So there's lots of confusion there. Depending on what and where you read, you might get one of those two stories, you know. They had a son named Gerald. Geroid Fitzgerald? Geroid? I don't know. I really don't know how to pronounce some of these names. I'm doing the best I can. But it appears to be Geroid. Geroid. Something like that. He lives beneath the Luger and rides in every 7 years on his white horse. and they say one day he will rid Ireland of its invaders. So Anya's son is like prophesized to be like the end to their invasions, right? If you look into Irish mythology, there's many invasions and takeovers of Ireland all throughout their, like, it's almost like a curse that's on Ireland in their myths. So it's there may have been, once again, same as the Trojan War thing, like there may have been all of these invasions, but historically, evidence wise, like there may not have been all of these invasions, like may not have been real, you know? They may have been like allegoric stories.
Her title means great mother. Also in some of the links that I had sent on Not Another Spiritual Guru in our podcast group chat, it was talking about the way Celtic mythology is set up, and the parallels between Celtic mythology and Norse mythology, and how there is an quote unquote all father. And when you were talking about her son like riding for defending, it made me think of Thor. Immediately.
See, you would know because you're really up in the Norse.
So I did
paganism.
Find some more links that aren't just the book that I had listed. I sent you, and some of them were like obscure Google books, and story of Aine, where she had Anya, I'm sorry. There was a story that was told in folklore that she was called the best-hearted woman that ever lived.
Yeah.
There was a connection with her and a king who forced himself upon her, and she bit off his ear, and he was named Bear Ear after that. So yeah, there's some definite like hard-hitting stories that were kind of listed in folklore, and this was actually given down to a storyteller that lives in the area where she's worshipped or was worshipped historically, and then he told the story.
Right.
That,
well, because a lot of these stories are, like you said, word of mouth, and they're a little bit harder to find, but yeah, she did have a few stories because she is a more prominent goddess in Celtic mythology. She shares that Lunasa with the deity Lu, and we talk about Lu in our Lammas and Imbolc episode.
I mixed her together earlier when I was talking about Suilus with the comb, because that's her story. When I scoured the internet and found the journal that was written in the olden days.
Oh yeah.
And it was a journal written, and they talk about how some guy saw her and he stole her comb, and then from that day on he had misfortunes until he died. Because she's all of Celtic mythology, not all of them, but most of them are tied very, very deeply with the, how do you say it? You say it better. The
Tuatha De Danann,
which is the Fae. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at Celtic and Druidic mythology, you're looking at a trickster element.
Right.
Which is...
Right. So Anya is also considered a very old primordial deity in the Celtic or Celtic religion. You can pronounce it either way. I'm pretty sure Celtic or Celtic. It depends on your preference, really. I think they both work, though. She lives in a castle. She lives in a castle in Tonk Anya, or I don't know how you pronounce that, C-N-O-C, Anya, or Anya's Hill, and it's near Lugur, and the paps of Anya belong to her. So Lugur is a village? Am I missing that?
No, there's a lot of locations in the Celtic mythology where like they live on a rock, or they live on a village, or they live in a location where the location matters.
Yeah, Lugur is like her place, but it doesn't like really describe if Lugur.
It says it's the birthing stone.
It is the birthing stone, but it's...
So I'm guessing it's a rock formation. That means a lot.
Right.
Like when we were talking about Suilus and people pilgrimaging.
It's a location where it's a location regardless. It's not maybe not a village, but it like you said, probably a rock formation. It makes the most sense. And the paps of Anya are two breast-shaped mountains considered to be her embodiment.
Yeah.
So the paps, titties. Anya's titties is the mountain, is two mountains. The paps of Anya. We just say Anya's titties. Okay. Her embodiment. Also, the Isle of Nakadun.
Locations, don't know how to pronounce. A lot of the Celtic stuff that we've found is location based, just like with Suilus and her bath, pilgrimaging, and this is probably also why some of the things didn't come over here to us, because we're not from there. And if we were, it was no longer passed down to us when we came to America.
Right. And I would assume that's that island is supposedly shaped like resembling like a squatting pregnant woman giving birth. So that goes back into Anya's like fertility aspects and things like that. Also, wanted to mention Anya may or may not have an alter ego. So it's hard to say, looking at the history, if this goddess is a secondary aspect to Anya, or if she's her own independent goddess. But there's one called Aynia. I'm gonna pronounce it Aine. Aine, the fairy queen of Tyrone. Because Anya, post Christianity, was reconfigured into either a fairy queen or Saint Anne. So that kind of like, when you kind of have this other goddess figure, and then you have like the post Christianity colonizers, who kind of took over, they can tend to maybe get different goddesses, like they take their overlap and then they make them one. So this could be a completely independent goddess, but because the overlap and the Christian takeover and everything, it's really not, we're not sure if she's the same, just a different aspect or what. But she was the fairy queen. She was the spirit of the moon, death, stones, and the tides. So it's kind of like Anya's the sun and Aine is the moon. She's the darker, hidden aspects with the psychic abilities. She may be the cause. She may bestow fertility, psychic abilities, or even be the cause of madness, hence the term lunatic, after the moon. So you guys can dive deeper into her if you want. So you can deep dive further into her if you want to decide for yourself, are they two aspects of the same, or are they completely different? So I'll leave that up to y'all.
I mean, you could deep dive. Also know that, like we said, it's hard to find things separately.
Right.
We're going off of word of mouth that's been passed down. The way they write is different than the way we write. Like, you know. But, like, a while ago, I had mentioned that I had that dream with, like, Hermes. I swear he sent it to me. We talked about Hermes a little bit. And it was, like, I don't know if I talked to you guys about it. I talked to our spiritual guru about it. Hermes was getting kidnapped, and he was brought to this new place, in this new location, in this new building. And he was like, yeah, like, why did you guys do that? And they were like, well, you're ours now. Like, that's how...
It's a stolen identity.
That's how civilizations do when we conquer each other. We just take bits and pieces of other religions and put it into ours.
Yeah. And
it gets watered down, confused, and overlapped over the course of time.
But honestly, no religion... No pagan religion gets their identity stolen worse than the Celtics, because they were truly taken over by Catholicism. And it's not, we love our Catholics. It's nothing against Catholic people as a whole, trust me.
But over the course of history, things were not done.
Over the course of history, the Catholics mainly wiped out Celtic paganism, and they really destroyed a lot of history in regards to that. And they stole a lot of it. They took these spirits
and pieces
and entities, and they renamed them, and it's just, you know, it gets a little colonized up in here. It makes it really hard to talk about Celtic paganism.
Literally, when we talked about Baal, it was difficult as crap to find anything that was not from the Bible saying that he was evil.
Yeah, propagandized information.
And we're not saying that there hasn't been, like, sacrifices in the course of every pagan religion ever. But we are saying that some of it is a lie.
Right.
Did you hear that? One of the candles, like, when I said that. Sorry. But we're not saying some of it, all of it's true or all of it's a lie. But we're saying that some of it gets retaken and rewritten as evil and not evil, when in some of these pagan religions there wasn't a great evil. Some there was, some there wasn't.
Yeah, and I mean, Celtic paganism doesn't really have
a great evil.
Doesn't really have like a list of...
Yeah, some of them don't have lists. It was mostly nature-based.
Yeah, it's really nature-based and seasonal-based. It's not really, like, bogged down with lots of rules and regulation. And, like, same with, like, Greek mythology, though. Like, there's not really a specified list of rules. It's... Yeah.
Which is a great segue into our Egyptian deities.
Yeah, a lot of these deities have their own rules specific to just that deity, if we're being honest.
Yes.
But Egyptian deities
have a pantheon list of rules.
They do have rules.
And the rules are based on each one of the 42 Egyptian deities. If you didn't know that, I found that out in my research about Ra.
Ah, interesting.
So Ra is a sun god, and he came into existence and created the world and all of the other deities. Ra is who we're going to cover right now, and then we're going to go into Skehmet. We know that the pronunciation is probably not going to be the best. Ancient Egyptian words have been changed due to different languages changing. You know, I'm going to try my best. But Ra wasn't always known as just Ra. It was Amun-Ra. Okay? That's how he was written in the funeral text. When we talk about...
Amun-Ra.
Yeah. When we talk about the funeral texts or finding religion's basis again. Archaeologists and Egyptologists would go about and go into these crypts and the sarcophagi and find hieroglyphics and funerary texts, tablets, and the basis of Kemeticism is in these texts. Okay. The Egyptians left a lot of ruins behind. Mm-hmm. It's not just word of mouth. There was lots of written things, so there's more to read.
The ancient Egyptians are actually quite famous,
advanced
for their durability of their artifacts.
Yeah, they were. So I guess I'll start with just listing the tenets of Ma, and that is the basis of Kemeticism. Now, there's a lot to talk about when we come to it, but what I'm going to say before I start listing it is that in what I read, it said that all the funerary texts do not contradict any of the funerary texts. Every time they find a funerary text, it just adds on more information that we didn't have before, and that, you know, it's not confusing at all, but some people make it more confusing than need to. So, yeah. Tenets of Ma is the basis of Kemeticism. There are 42, one for each entity in the Kemetic pantheon, which is Egyptian deities. Follow me with that. Okay.
All right.
I honor virtue. I benefit with gratitude. I am peaceful. I respect the property of others. I affirm that all life is sacred. I give offerings that are genuine. I live in truth. I regard all altars with respect. I speak with sincerity. I consume only my fair share. I offer words of good intent. I relate in peace. I honor animals with reverence. I can be trusted. I care for the earth. I keep my own counsel. I speak positively of others. I remain in balance with my emotions. I am trustful in my relationships. I hold purity in high esteem. I spread joy. I do the best I can. I communicate with compassion. I listen to opposing opinions. I create harmony. I invoke laughter. I am open to love in various forms. I am forgiving. I am kind. I act respectfully to others. I am accepting. I follow my inner guidance. I converse with awareness. I do good. I give blessings. I keep the waters pure. I speak with good intent. I praise the goddess and the god. I am humble. I achieve with integrity. I advance through my own abilities. I embrace all. Okay. So each of those are supposed to correlate with an entity in the Egyptian pantheon. Do I know what they all correlate with and who they correlate with? No. Could you find that out? Yes, you could.
Yes, yes you can.
Yes, you can. But we're not going to do that today. So we're going to talk about Ra. He said he wanted to list out Egyptian Kemeticism and talk about how he created everything, and in the end, he did eventually die and go away. So Ra was said to have a secret name that he was given by Thoth, the god of knowledge, and Thoth and Ra would say a chant every night to defeat the big evil in the Egyptian Kemetic world, which was pretty much something that swallowed the sun every single night. It would hide in the sunrise and it would come out and it was unkillable, but it was only paralyzed by Ra and Thoth chanting this spell at it. Yes, Egyptian Kemeticism has spells. Literally, some of the funerary texts are books of spells.
Let's also mention the fact that Egyptian deities have the ability to grow old and die.
Yes.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that once I get...
And when they do, they tend to pass the torch.
Yes.
So to speak.
Ra was very famous in the 4th and 5th dynasty. That was like his prime time. Let's see. I have a lot of notes that I wrote down about him because I read like a lot of books about him. Okay, so there was a princess in one of the dynasties that actually in ancient times she regarded the texts and the teachings that how do I say it? Amun-Ra and Osiris were the same entity. So if that was happening since ancient times, I think that is also why even the Encyclopedia of Spirits does not have Ra in it. They have Osiris. But Ra is not listed.
Mm-mm. Not even as Amun-Ra.
Yeah.
I was like, They got Horus and they've got Osiris. Which both, I mean, Horus would be Ra's son, right?
No.
No?
Horus is Osiris and Isis's son.
Why do I get through so many texts that's so confusing when it comes to Horus that they make it sound like he has this huge connection to Ra? I mean,
okay, but maybe he does, though.
But also, you said that, so I might have read something that Horus is Ra's son, because you said Osiris and Ra are often connected as being two aspects
even
of the
historically.
Same. So I mean, times. Honestly, yeah, I probably did read that somewhere, but that's what makes part of it so confusing.
Yeah,
because they really don't the historians really don't know the difference between these deities, so they just lump them together.
It's iconography.
Yeah,
it's if they don't really know what they're looking at, they won't be able to tell. Because even nowadays, I know pagans that are Kemetic, and they get confused with who is Isis and who is Hathor because they have similar diction. But they're not the same.
Ra and Horus both have the head of a bird.
Yeah.
That's probably why.
It gets confusing.
Yeah.
Just make sure you know what you're doing if you're going to try to work with an entity. Try not to put something on their altar or a statue that is the wrong one. And I know it's difficult to find and figure out, but that's also why some pagans don't use statues.
Right.
But Ra has phases of his life, and he does become an old human called Autumn, and at night he becomes Autumn at some point, and he was said to eventually die and then fade into the sky. He every day he is born in the east and dies in the west. There's a lot of information about him as an entity. He has boats that he sells every morning and every night, and he does fight Apep. That is the big bad in Egyptian mythology. What is that? That is the wrong one. Let's see. His secret name, we talked about that. At the end of a lifetime in Egyptian Kemeticism, there's a belief held that your heart is weighed on a scale against a feather based on how you followed the tenets of Ma. If you were said to be wicked to Ra or blasphemous, you suffered, and it wasn't internally suffering. He burnt your heart, your soul, your body, your shadows, and he ate your heart. He burnt your body, soul, and shadows. There's different judgments. There's Osiris judgments and there's Ra's judgments. So, yeah. Their religion is all about balancing acts and good and evil, and there are books of spells, funerary texts, rituals, prayers in it. You could petition an entity in this pantheon, but long term they want you to follow their tenets and get to know them. It's not really petitioning, really. We've talked about you can petition entities, but you need to have a relationship.
Right. And be careful in general Egyptian religious practices. Because you really need in-depth guidance from an expert for some of it.
Well, if you're trying to follow these funerary texts for rituals, probably don't.
Yeah, well, the ritual aspects are close.
Yeah.
So it's not that you can't revere and worship Egyptian deities. You absolutely can. But practicing their rituals is...
Honestly, they don't even have all that information out. They don't
it's
have
not
those.
Out
it's
like
not public.
Yeah, and if you're finding it, there's a reason why it's not out, right? Because it's dangerous information for the public to have easy access to, and because you're not supposed to be using it.
So, revere the gods, honor them. Maybe if you want to follow a more structured based practice as a pagan, they literally have tenets.
Yeah. And they're good. They're like good morals and values to uphold in general. I would say they're pretty good, basic, how to be a good person.
It kind of sounds like some of them are similar to the 10 Commandments.
Some of them are similar to the points of Luciferianism.
Yeah. You're right.
If we're gonna go there.
We went there. Not another spiritual guru is going to talk about Skehmet now. Ra didn't have a lot he wanted me to talk about his stories wise, other than what he does and what he has done.
But Ra's in this story.
Yeah.
That I'm about to tell you.
There are a few stories. I
want to tell a really fun story about Skehmet before I just go into her general information, because there's fun stories. Yay. I mean, her as a deity, like, you can't talk about her without telling this story. This is her story,
I gotta go to the bathroom. You continue.
So Ra, speaking of how deities can grow old and die or whatever, Ra was getting kind of old, and the people of Egypt really stopped worshiping him as much, and they really put him on the back burner. They were living out of balance with the tenets of Ma. They were not worshiping the way that they should, and so Ra, this really upset him, and he went to the great sky deity in the Egyptian religion. I forget. So it's a sky deity who encompasses the entire night sky, and it's a more primordial deity, more older than Ra, and basically, is above Ra in that way. And so he goes to him and he says, what do I do? What do I do? How do I get these people back on track? How do I get my people to worship me again? And this primordial deity looked at Ra and said, you'll have to pluck out your eye, and then you'll have the answer. So Ra goes, okay, he goes back home and he does what he's told. He plucks out his eye. And before him, his eye transforms into this lioness goddess named Skehmet. And as soon as he had manifested Skehmet, Skehmet went into the world and went on this rampage killing spree where she just went crazy. She just started killing people left and right. Complete bloodbath. There was no stopping her. She was just pure rage and murder, right? She's just off the wall. And it got to a point where Ra was like, okay, that's enough. That's enough. You can stop now. And she was like, no, I think not. I think I won't stop. I think I'll keep going and going and going. And she almost decimated the entire population. So Ra and the other Egyptian deities, gods and goddesses, got together and were like, we need to come up with a plan. We need to stop Skehmet. She's doing too much. We're not going to have anyone left to worship us after all of this is said and done, And so we're not going to have anybody left to worship us. She's going to kill everyone. And this is crazy. We got to do something.
Crazy.
So they devised a plan, and they said, oh, well, she loves blood so much. She loves the taste of blood. Let's trick her. Let's take all this beer and put it out and color it red so that it looks like blood. And she'll come drink it, and she'll get drunk and pass out. And that's exactly what happened. So they mixed the beer with pomegranate juice, turning it red like blood. And so she came, and that's exactly what happened. She came and she drank the whole dish of beer and passed out. And while she was passed out, Ra came in and was like, oh, I'm going to take some of her essence out. And so he like extracted her essence while she was asleep. And when he did that, he created Bastet, who's more like a domestic house cat in appearance. So you kind of like can take away from that. And I was thinking allegorically, that's kind of like the Egyptians' way of saying domestic cats came from big cats. I feel like that's part of like the message of the story. Like it's an origin of how it's, in a way, it's an origin of how domestic cats came to be. You know, similarly to everything else that it's about, obviously. And so she woke up, she was kind of pissed that she couldn't be so pissed anymore. You know? She was like, you know, y'all did me dirty. And she was a little taken back by that. But she had no choice but to calm down. And then later, her calmed aspects turned her into less of a destructive goddess and more of a protective goddess. So once they kind of toned down her rage, she went from being like a goddess of bloodthirsty rage and war and destruction to being more of a goddess of healing. So she went through and she kind of like fixed and repaired some of what she had broken when she was enraged, which, you know, the guilt started to set in. She went to healing, you know. So there's that. She's known as the Mighty One, the Lady of Terror, Lady of Action, the one before whom evil flees, Mistress Dread, Lady of Flame, and the Scarlet Woman. Those are some pretty intense titles.
Vengeful Justice Deity.
Yeah.
We haven't eaten. We're gonna snack. You're gonna hear it.
Yeah.
Not sorry. We've been recording all day.
It's all good. They can listen to us smack lips. Her name comes from the root word meaning to be strong, powerful, mighty, or violent. So think of like the strength card in tarot, how a lot of times it's represented by a lion. And lions in general represent strength. Her breath was thought to have created the desert because she's also associated with like the fiery, blazing, scorching power of the sun. So she's not just associated with the sun. She's associated with the literal destructive nature of the sun.
Because that was what she was created for.
That's what she was created for originally. She did eventually turn into a more, like a more healing diseases. Like she was known to she was known for helping people. Helping people who needed it without asking too. So that's another thing. So most deities aren't going to intervene without being asked, but Sekhmet has been one to intervene without being asked, and she will sometimes come to your aid just because she sees a need for it. And so when Sekhmet comes to your aid without being asked, you're supposed to thank her with an offering, because she can help you, and she can help heal you, and she can also destroy you. And if you don't show appreciation where it's due, it can bring out the worst in her. So you want to thank her. You want to thank her for sure. Whether you ask for her help or whether she comes without being asked, you're going to thank her through offerings. She's also associated with women's reproductive health and their menstrual cycle. So it's funny because when you're having like a really bad attitude and you're cranky, and as a woman anyways, if you're really having a bad attitude and you're cranky, you're in a bad mood, dare I say destructive mood, a lot of people will look at you and be like, what, are you on your period? You know? And that's kind of what that makes me think about.
And that's not a cute look if you're the one saying that. No.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't say that.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
It's horrible. I was reading too, as she was speaking, that apparently her priests were considered the finest physicians in Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You know.
So.
But her connection to menstrual cycles and such, a lot of the female entities in Egyptian mythology are connected with menstrual cycles. Isis has a knot of blood that she wears, and you also have Hathor, which is connected to pregnancy and the likes of that as well. But I'm surprised you didn't mention one of the most things, the reason why you took Sekhmet.
What's that?
She is known as a goddess of something that you do.
No, I was getting there.
Okay.
It was there. I haven't got to it yet.
I'm excited for that. Hold on.
So,
1 second. Okay, yes, let's talk about this.
Okay, so speaking of, she's a goddess of healing. So that came kind of after her rage-filled moment, right? She became a goddess of healing.
Yeah.
And so she's a matron goddess of Reiki. So it's interesting because when I read that, I was like, first of all, how is that so when Reiki is a Japanese I
don't know. We don't know much.
What do we even call Reiki? Healing method?
We don't know much about what the Egyptians did for healing.
Right, and so it's interesting. So she's a goddess of Reiki healing, so she can energy heal, basically. And I thought that was really neat. It doesn't really go in depth about that, but just that she was known for that.
Yeah.
And that she was known for intervening, whether you asked for it or not. Yeah. So she likes to take it upon herself when she sees a need to step in righteously.
But, I mean, over the course of Egyptian, any mythology, really, things get changed, things get added, right? And I've even seen theories about how, not saying this is true, that each of the Egyptian deities stand for a part of the body. And it's about living in alignment with your own body. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, Thoth is the head, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
because how they're drawn, it looks like similar iconography to the way the brain would be, or the uterus would be, or whatever body part it is.
Right. Which is really interesting, actually. I didn't know that. Learned something new myself there.
I'll be deep diving.
Yeah.
You'll be deep diving.
I did a little bit. I do be deep diving. I deep dive so much harder when it's special interests of mine. That's you know, my main problem. ADHD will do that.
So yeah, each mythos or religion or whatever has different meanings and different basis of the mythology, whether it's seasonal living in alignment with yourself, or has tenets.
Yeah.
I didn't mention the Tua, or the Dua, which is the underworld in which, you know, Ra travels every day. And I also we talked about Isis before, where she wrestled Ra for secret word. But I feel like a lot of Egyptian mythology is based on words, a way of living.
Yes. Yes.
And we've uncovered a lot of Egyptian artifacts which help us understand the basis of Kemeticism.
Oh, yeah. Sekhmet, I want to specify, too, that she heals all illnesses, except for illnesses of the eyes, which I don't know if that's because she comes from an eye, but I haven't really, I'm like...
Ra and Horus are associated with eye.
Yeah.
So then that whole theory about each body part being assigned to an entity.
But also it goes back to why people are get confused between Ra, Horus, Osiris.
Yeah. Which we've uncovered a lot, but like I said, historically, even back in the old dynasties, there were princesses, and they were like, Ra and Osiris are the same entity. Which, I mean, who says they're not? Really. They could be, they might not be. I'm not telling you they are, they aren't. I'm just telling you, when you're looking into entities in mythology, you need to make sure you actually know what you're doing and reading. And if you're going to assume a relationship, you know.
And even if they are the same entity but different aspects, you're assuming the relationship with that aspect. So you want your practice to be specific to that aspect of that deity anyway. So even, whether they're the same or different, you still wouldn't worship Ra the same way that you would worship Osiris, because they're different aspects and they do have some major differences. I mean, all of these deities, they have major differences. They also have overlap. It's hard not to overlap. I mean, my personality has overlap with CinnamonGrove's personality, but we're not the same person.
You're not the same person.
I mean, think of it like that.
Two separate entities.
We are clearly two separate entities. Exactly. We have so much in common. And if someone was writing a book with both of us in it, historians way far in the future might get confused between the two of us and merge us into one. Or they might be able to tell the difference and keep us separate. Who knows? Like, no one's doing that. We're not going down as historical figures.
This could be historical.
Maybe. But then there's this very clear evidence that we are different.
Or I'm lowering my voice a little bit.
How do you explain when we talk over each other?
Mechanical error.
Oh my god. Right. That's one way to think of it, though. Like, you might have a lot in common with someone, but that doesn't make you the same as them.
And honestly, though, when you're going on a date, do not tell me you're not Facebook stalking. Am I endorsing it? No. But everybody looks up everybody's name. You know a background.
I mean, the reason why I learned to do that specifically was because I grew up in a small state and I had to do a lot of research to make sure I wasn't related to that person.
Valid. But also, for real though, like, you're not gonna go on a Hinge, if you do Hinge, Bumble, whatever you do, date without looking at that person's name online.
Right.
That looked like a leaf. Did you see it? So cute.
It is so cute.
We're talking about the way the audio looks. It looked like a leaf, a little leaf.
Little leaf popped up. Oh. There's another little leaf.
That looked like Texas. So yeah, I mean, we really enjoyed going over the deities. We hope it was entertaining. Like I said, we do all of our recording, or we have done all summer in one setting, and we've been recording since like 11 o'clock.
Oh, I've been here since 10, and it's 5:30. Well, I mean, we put in a day's work.
We did.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
We do a lot of behind the scenes work, and we enjoy doing this for you guys. And if you guys would want to, we were thinking about making some kind of like cup of coffee thing or something. We don't make money off of our podcast, not yet.
Yeah.
You have to have like a checklist of things.
We want to do merch, maybe shirts, maybe mugs, maybe some magnets or something, stickers.
Magnets.
You know, like people like those magnet bumper stickers to go on their car, because then they don't wreck their car, like the paint.
Yeah.
Some people like just regular stickers for their laptop or whatever. Yeah. So maybe we'll do merch eventually. Yeah.
What candle did you light last?
I lit Ra last.
Oh, he went. He's still burning.
Well, he's lightly smoldering.
But
Skehmet is Blaze.
yeah, she is.
And Anya's just quietly, you know.
She's like, I'm here.
She's like, I'm here. I've been here the whole time.
Yeah.
I was lit first, but I'm going to go out last.
Suilus has been out for a minute. She was like, okay, I had my moment. That's it.
Yeah, Suilus. Suilus was the first to go.
We went over her first, so.
We went over her first, but I'm pretty sure Anya was lit first. Maybe not. I don't remember now who I lit first. I don't know. They were all lit pretty close in time together, and they are not burning at the same rate.
Candles do not do that. Look. They don't. So yeah, we enjoyed this. We wish there was more information on our Celtic entities, but you know, we do what we can.
Right. And that's it, guys. So yeah,
Virgo season.
You gotta be tuning in for that.
Yeah, Virgo season is next, but it is Leo season. Be on the lookout for our 2 male lions on YouTube. It will be Shawn Mendes and Little Uzi Vert, and be on the lookout for our 2 lovely Leo females on Spotify. It will be Madonna and Dua Lipa. We will be comparing their birth charts, and then stay tuned for a Virgo season up next. Thanks for listening. Whether you're listening, a new listener, old listener, we are happy to have you. Just be sure to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram, because we are doing different astrology charts on YouTube and Spotify if we have more than 2 famous people of the zodiac for that season. So we will see you later, Jada Army, and just like, follow, share. Have a good one. Bye.